It is unlikely that Suggs will return with an ankle injury as Williams spins and finishes.
It doesn't always matter how many stars you have after graduating from high school because that stuff only matters in astronomy. Just ask Jalen Williams. You may know him as the second best player on the OKC Thunder. He's an all-star and a legit two-way player who can put up 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists while also playing great defense on the other end. But he wasn't even one of the best players in the country coming out of high school. Now, let's look at how this scrawny 3-star recruit turned into an NBA All-Star. Some players tend to bloom early, leading to high ranks in their recruitment class as early as their high school freshman season. These are the types that have a high chance of coming out of high school and college as future NBA stars. Though there are some players who were ranked in the top 10 but never turned into anything in the NBA, you can bet your house that most 5-star recruits either become stars or have fruitful professional careers. But there are also times when a player may not even be in the top 100 of their recruitment class but still end up becoming better than everyone. These are your late bloomers, the type of players who don't show their potential early but eventually turn into great players in the NBA. Some of these guys even end up with better careers than the top 5 players of their recruitment class. Jalen Williams is an example of that. He was basically a nobody in high school while playing for Perry High School in Gilbert, Arizona. No one looked his way while he was still in the early years of his high school career. After all, he was just a skinny 6-foot point guard as a sophomore. He wasn't even a very good point guard. Luckily for Williams, his genetics were not done with him yet. He grew 5 inches from his sophomore year to his senior year, becoming a legit 6'5" athlete. But for some reason, his school still listed him at 6'3" because they probably wanted to confuse their opponents. Whatever the case, the extra inches helped J-Dub a lot because he went on to average 25 points as his team's starting shooting guard during his senior year. Despite that, he wasn't even one of the best recruits coming out of high school. Most scouts listed him outside the top 100 in the class of 2019. He wasn't even in the top 200. Williams was just a 3-star recruit coming out of high school, and that's not always a good sign for players who want to make it to the NBA. And this is the same recruitment class that produced Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Maxey, LaMelo Ball, and Jaden McDaniels. So it's clear that there's talent in that class. But the problem is that most scouts put a premium on big and athletic players. While J-Dub was already 6'5", most scouts still thought he was 6'3", and he was never the most athletic and explosive athlete at the wing position. But that didn't hinder him from finding a home. Santa Clara took a chance on him by bringing him into their program. But the thing about this school is that it's not really the best place for future NBA players. Before Williams, no Santa Clara product had ever been drafted into the NBA for more than 20 years. The last player to make it to the NBA from that school was Marlon Garnett. Yeah, you probably don't know that guy because he only played 24 games in the NBA. But before Garnett, there was Steve Nash, the greatest player coming out of Santa Clara. Nash went on to become a 2-time MVP and one of the greatest point guards of all time. But he's more like a one-hit wonder for that program because Santa Clara simply isn't a good program for aspiring NBA players. That didn't hinder Williams from making the most out of his college years. Most 5-star recruits tend to be one-and-done players who only stay 1 year in college before going to the NBA. But for a 3-star recruit like Williams, it was best to use the college experience to improve to a level that could get attention from NBA scouts. After all, players who spend more time in college tend to be more NBA ready than one-and-done athletes. In Williams' case, he used his time with Santa Clara to expand his game and prove he could make it to the NBA.
As he fires it up to Wallace. Clock running out.
His numbers during his first 2 seasons were underwhelming. He averaged 7.7 points as a freshman. Williams improved as a sophomore when he averaged 11.5 points and 4.1 rebounds while shooting just 39.9% from the floor. But numbers like that don't get you into the NBA, especially if you come from a less competitive program like Santa Clara. But it was during his junior year that he started showing his potential. As a junior, he led the team in points and assists, averaging 18 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.2 assists while helping Santa Clara win 21 of their 33 games. This wasn't enough to get the team to the national tournament, but it was enough for scouts to give J-Dub a second look. He may have been older than most NBA prospects, but Williams entered the 2022 NBA draft as an NBA-ready player. The extra work he put himself through between his sophomore and junior seasons showed on the court, not only because his stats improved, but also because he obviously added new elements to his game. He became a much more efficient scorer, improving his 39.9% field goal shooting to 51.3% as a junior. Williams also improved his shot creation by understanding how to use pace to his advantage. That was what drew the attention of most scouts. By that time, teams were already high on players who may not be fast or quick, but can use their pace to toy with defenders. Some of these players included Luka Doncic, Trae Young, and none other than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You see, these guys aren't blazing fast or lightning quick, but they can toy with defenders using their pace. And Williams was already showing he could do the same at the collegiate level. Add to that a 6'6" frame and a long 7'2" wingspan, you have yourself a potential NBA All-Star in the making. Of course, because he wasn't the biggest, fastest, the most athletic, and youngest prospect in 2022, J-Dub wasn't considered a top 10 prospect. And that was perfectly fine for the OKC Thunder, who not only had the second pick, but also the 12th pick of the 2022 draft. For the second pick, they chose Chet Holmgren, who also became an important part of their future. They also acquired the 11th pick in a trade with New York, but used it to draft Ousmane Dieng. But with their 12th pick, they drafted Jalen Williams. This was the perfect spot for him because there was no pressure on his shoulders to become a star. So, even if he developed into a role player, getting drafted 12th was fine. But the Thunder knew they had the steal of the draft. It didn't take a long time for J-Dub to showcase his NBA-ready talents. He was an immediate starter and impact player on a Thunder team that stockpiled talented players and young prospects in preparation for their return to the playoffs.
A little attitude on the flight on Friday night back from Portland.
Oh, J-Dub!
Williams, in that case, wasn't too pressured to immediately rise to star level, but was already impressive as a rookie. It did help him that he was playing alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was posting 31 points a night during the 2022-23 season. But J-Dub's numbers were clearly efficient enough to earn him votes for the Rookie of the Year award. He averaged 14.1 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3.3 assists while shooting an incredibly efficient clip of 52.1% from the field. Williams finished second behind Paolo Banchero for the Rookie of the Year trophy, but that was already a victory for him because he was a better rookie than 10 other players drafted ahead of him. But there was a deeper story behind J-Dub's eventual development from being a good rookie to being a star-level player. The OKC Thunder loved playing small ball, preferring to use long but mobile wings at bigger positions instead of sticking with conventional big men. So, even though he was listed as a shooting guard during his rookie year, J-Dub actually played power forward and center a lot. But that wasn't going to be a good long-term plan for a player who only weighed a bit over 200 pounds coming into his rookie year.
J-Dub gets down the lane, not to be...
So, knowing he was going to be asked to play bigger than he was, Williams bulked up to over 220 pounds heading into his second season. True enough, the Thunder listed him as their starting power forward. And it didn't even matter that he was a few inches shorter and a few pounds lighter than most power forwards because he more than held his own by averaging 19.1 points, 4 rebounds, and 4.5 assists on a Thunder team that won 57 games and secured the top seed in the West. But that wasn't enough to help OKC win a title or secure a finals berth, with the team losing to the Dallas Mavericks in the second round of the playoffs. But the loss to the Mavs stung him because he had a poor series against them, averaging only 17 points on 42.4% shooting from the field.
Forces the miss on the turnaround. It's a 2-on-1. Shai's going to give it up. There is J-Dub, and the Thunder have them.
Mark Daigneault, the Thunder's head coach, loved the fact that J-Dub was angry at himself in that series because he knew that this young man was going to work extra hard to get better. Eventually, he did. The Thunder opened up more touches for Williams by trading Josh Giddey during the offseason and acquiring Isaiah Hartenstein through free agency. With Hartenstein playing center and Chet Holmgren sliding to the power forward position, Williams was now back to playing small forward, his more natural position in the NBA. The Thunder also gave him more touches and opportunities to create plays for himself and others. With SGA playing the point guard spot, J-Dub was more like the team's point forward. Imagine SGA as the team's Michael Jordan. That means Williams was more of a Scottie Pippen, the guy doing all the other stuff aside from scoring. He was rebounding, passing, and defending at better rates. And his offense also improved.
Fight for the rebound. Williams. Here comes Williams. Rises up and throws it down.
Williams' shooting numbers decreased, but that was a product of his increased touches. He was shooting more outside shots, which used to be a weaker area of his game earlier in his career. And he opened up his three-point shooting by actually driving more to the basket and drawing more fouls. Like SGA, he mastered the art of pacing himself and using craftiness instead of speed to get to the basket. So, with the Thunder leading the entire league in win-loss record, it was clear that this team deserved a second All-Star alongside their MVP. The league eventually rewarded Jalen Williams with an All-Star nod after averaging around 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists as the Thunder's second-best player. At that point in his career, he had become only the second member of the 2022 draft class to earn an All-Star spot. But what was more impressive was that he became an All-Star ahead of almost everyone else from that 2019 recruitment class. Only LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and Tyrese Maxey earned star status ahead of him from that recruitment class. And that's not too bad for a 3-star recruit who wasn't even supposed to make it to the NBA.